I still remember the night everything fell apart. The city glowed under a soft drizzle, the kind that made neon signs shimmer and puddles mirror the lights on the asphalt. I had just stepped out of my apartment, umbrella awkwardly clutched in one hand, keys in the other, my thoughts tangled with anticipation. Tonight was supposed to be perfect. Alex, my boyfriend of 3 years, had promised a celebration for my promotion at work. A quiet dinner at that new rooftop restaurant we had been raving about. Nothing extraordinary, just us. Except when I arrived. The quiet and intimate scene I imagined had vanished. Alex wasn't alone, not even close. He was sitting at a corner table, laughing in a way that made my chest sink, with Sophie, my best friend. My confidant, my Sophie. I froze, the umbrella tapping the wet sidewalk with each step I took. My mind refused to process it at first. Sophie had been part of my life for nearly a decade. She knew everything about me, my dreams, my insecurities, the nights I cried because I thought I wasn't enough. And Alex knew me in ways most people didn't. He knew how to pull me close, how to make me feel safe, and yet here they were, so intimate it wasn't even subtle. I remember staring at them from the threshold, my mouth dry, my stomach twisting in disbelief. Their hands brushed lightly against each other, almost casual yet charged. The moment their eyes met mine, Sophie's face froze, a flicker of guilt maybe, but Alex just smiled like it was nothing. I left before they could speak, letting the rain soak through my jacket as I stumbled down the street, cursing every instinct that had told me to trust both of them. That night I walked for hours, past glowing bar windows, past laughing couples, past life moving like nothing had changed. But my life had changed, in a single heartbeat. I should probably rewind a bit, because what followed wasn't just a reaction. It was the collapse of years of trust, love, and shared history. Alex and I had met in college, the kind of accidental collision that feels like fate. He was magnetic, thoughtful, funny, and sometimes frustratingly stubborn. He had this way of listening, really listening. That made me believe I'd found someone who could read my mind without me saying a word. Sophie entered my life when I was a freshman, nervous and unsure, and she became my anchor. We were inseparable. Late-night study sessions, shared secrets, and dreams whispered in dorm rooms. We promised each other that nothing could come between us, and for the longest time it felt like it wouldn't. By the time Alex came into the picture, Sophie and I had formed our own little ecosystem of trust. I never imagined it could be disrupted. Love and friendship, I thought, were safe. But I was wrong. The aftermath of that night was a haze. I stopped answering calls from Alex. I unfollowed Sophie on everything, though even that small digital barrier felt pathetic. At work, I pretended nothing had happened. But every colleague who knew both, Alex and me, could sense the storm beneath my calm exterior. Then came the whispering. Not rumors exactly, but subtle digs. Are you really okay with how Alex and Sophie are getting along? Some said it jokingly. Others' eyes held questions that felt like knives. I felt exposed, humiliated. The very people I trusted were watching me flounder. When I finally confronted Alex, his excuses were a tangle of guilt and defensiveness. It was just one night, he said. I didn't mean for it to happen. We're over now. I screwed up and I'm sorry. But I didn't want words. I wanted trust. I wanted the people I loved not to stab me in the back. Sophie, on the other hand, was cold, distant. Her messages were clipped, almost clinical. I made a mistake. She wrote, I hope you can forgive me someday. That was it. No apology that penetrated. No acknowledgement of the years of betrayal. Just words that felt like salt in a wound. In the weeks that followed, I oscillated between rage, grief, and numbness. Nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying moments where I thought Sophie was my ally, Alex was my safe place. Every memory was a knife twisting, every laugh shared now a cruel echo. I questioned everything about myself. Was I not enough? Did I miss signs? Could I have prevented this somehow? Self-doubt gnawed at me, relentless and merciless. Friends tried to comfort me, but their words felt hollow compared to the betrayal I'd experienced. My social circle fractured subtly. Some friends tried to stay neutral, awkwardly tiptoeing around the subject. Others predictably picked sides. Alex was always trouble, one friend said, shaking her head. I told you he wasn't serious. Sophie's few allies treated me with wary distance, almost as if I was the interloper, the one spoiling their secret. And Alex? I didn't see him much, but when I did, he looked at me like nothing had happened. A casual smile, a handshake and silence. I'll admit I felt powerless. But amid the wreckage, a small, insistent voice whispered, "This isn't over. Not yet." It wasn't just revenge for revenge's sake. It was about reclaiming dignity, proving to myself, and to everyone who had watched me spiral, that I wasn't a victim. I started analyzing everything, their patterns, how they interacted, who knew what and when. Sophie had always thrived on attention and validation. Alex had a streak of arrogance, the belief that consequences were for other people. Both had weaknesses I could exploit, subtly, elegantly. Patience became my weapon, observation my ally. I didn't act immediately. I watched. I noted how Sophie behaved in social settings, how she tried to control narratives, how Alex deflected blame. I observed what my friends and colleagues whispered in private, noting who would bend under social pressure. Small seeds were planted, casual mentions of trust, stories of loyalty, reminders of consequences without pointing fingers. I was learning the art of subtlety, the quiet power of making someone feel a fraction of the discomfort they had caused. And I waited. The first half of the plan was to rebuild myself, while letting them underestimate me. Confidence was a shield, intelligence my sword. I learned to smile without revealing what I knew, to participate in gatherings without being the center of gossip, and to gather allies quietly. Every interaction became a chess move, every word a calculated step toward eventual reckoning. By the end of those months, I wasn't the shattered woman who had stumbled in the rain that night. I was alert, watchful, and increasingly dangerous in my restraint. Revenge wasn't about public humiliation yet. It was about patience, longer hide behind excuses, understanding, and creating the perfect moment when the betrayals would no longer hide behind excuses. I knew the road ahead was long. I knew the payoff would be slow, requiring intelligence and subtlety. But deep down, I felt the spark of control returning, like a pulse in my fingertips. They had tried to ruin me, and I intended to ensure that they would regret every choice that led them to believe I could be broken so easily. The first subtle victories were small, almost imperceptible. A friend would mention Alex's arrogance in passing, or Sophie would hesitate before taking credit for something trivial. Each instance was a tiny confirmation that my observation was working, that my patience was paying off. I didn't celebrate out loud. No one saw it coming. Alex's texts slowed. Calls went unanswered. The confident smirk he once wore casually in social gatherings faded into uncertainty. Sophie tried to maintain her facade, but it cracked under the weight of consistent truth and presence. She would post vague captions, attempt passive-aggressive commentary, but the engagement wasn't there. People began questioning what they had once accepted. I started to attend more industry events, professional gatherings, networking opportunities. I didn't flaunt success. I demonstrated capability. Word of my achievements reached mutual acquaintances. Before any of them had a chance to manipulate the narrative, I was present, competent, and calm. Sophie attempted subtle manipulations, whispers, and minor social traps, but I had learned to anticipate them. I listened more than I spoke, observed more than I acted. When I spoke, it was deliberate, measured, and impactful. The first real shift came at a joint friends' dinner. Sophie tried to corner me socially, to create an awkward situation. I remained poised, complimenting others, listening actively, engaging strategically. People gravitated toward me naturally. Sophie's irritation was visible in her subtle gestures. Alex noticed it too. He shifted in his seat, the confidence he thought unshakable beginning to falter. At work, I took on projects that highlighted my strategic thinking and leadership. Alex, who previously relied on his reputation, began to watch from a distance, unsure how to respond. He had assumed I would crumble, that I would create drama. But I had learned the power of silence and controlled action. Over time, mutual friends and colleagues started confiding in me, sharing thoughts they previously hid. Patterns of manipulation, favoritism, and subtle deception began surfacing. Not because I forced it, but because people felt safe sharing with someone who remained calm and steady. By the time the holidays arrived, the social landscape had shifted. Sophie's influence waned. Alex's professional confidence wavered. People started to see the true dynamics that had been hidden. I didn't need to expose them publicly. The truth unfolded naturally, through my composed presence and strategic interactions. And then came the moment that would define everything. Not at a party, not in whispers, but where it truly mattered. Control. The gala had been theirs, Alex commanding attention, Sophie maneuvering around power. They thought hierarchy and strategy were theirs to own. They hadn't accounted for me. As the senior executive entered, The same one. Alex had been angling to impress for months. Everything shifted. Alex moved carefully, rehearsed charm in place. Sophie lingered, calculating influence. I stayed where I was, calm, unassuming. The executive walked straight to me. "I've reviewed your proposal," he said. "This is decisive. We need leadership like yours." Eyes widened. Conversations paused subtly, but sharply. Alex's smile stiffened just enough. Sophie's hand faltered mid-gesture. What they didn't know, what no one did, was that this restructuring, this power shift wasn't theoretical. I had orchestrated every move, every line, every approval. The chain of command was already rewritten. His name now reported to mine. Authority, finality, silent domination. No yelling, no public spectacle, just ink on paper and control in action. The room felt smaller, their worlds subtly collapsing. They realized too late that I wasn't the girl who ran in the rain anymore. I was untouchable. Sophie called later, strategic as ever. "Let's meet like old times," she suggested. I smiled quietly. "I'm busy," I said. I thought access is earned. Alex requested a formal meeting. I scheduled it in the glass-walled conference room. Composed, but the calculation behind his eyes betrayed him. "I didn't expect this," he admitted. "That's your mistake," I said. "You never expected me to evolve." Silence stretched, heavy, uncomfortable. "This is about us?" he tried. I pointed to the documents, calm, precise. "This is about performance." And that was it. That was the moment the scales fully tipped. No manipulation, no guilt, no vulnerability, just competence, control and unshakable presence. They were no longer players. I was the board. Sophie's social leverage crumbled quietly over months. Alex recalibrated, cautious, measured, professional in ways he never needed to be before. I didn't humiliate. I repositioned. Every move had been invisible, unstoppable. Months later, alone in my office, I thought back to that girl in the rain. She thought she had lost everything. She hadn't. She had been handed clarity, power, and revenge disguised as calm mastery. They believed they had broken me. They hadn't. They'd only cleared the path. And the most satisfying part, they'll never know which move started it all. They thought they broke me. But all they did was teach me how to win.